Welcome to your online coffee break, where we discuss bite-sized topics that inspire, educate, and entertain. Here's your host, a software innovator, award-winning marketer, and astronomy and space buff, Chuck Fields.
Hello, thanks for joining me today for your online coffee break. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce our special guest, the Resounding Maybes. The Resounding Maybes recently released their debut album, Sine Qua Non, featuring a mix of alternative rock songs with a dream pop flavor. Guitarist vocalist Patrick O'Connor and keyboardist vocalist Savannah O'Connor joined us today to discuss their incredible music and inspiration and why Sine Qua Non is a must-add for your music collection.
Sine qua non, without which not, you're all I've got. Needed to live, not just survive, but feel alive. Be my counterpart.
Hi, Patrick and Savannah, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you again.
Hi.
It's our pleasure to be here.
Well, I tell you, some of our listeners out there might remember you two back from 2019, I think. Yeah, when we interviewed you with the Shakeups, of course, the Galaxy's most animated band, episode 96 for our loyal fans out there, if you want to check that out, which you're both a part of. But I understand of all the weird, neat, wonderful stories, if there were any that came out of 2020 and this COVID lockdown, is you formed the Resounding Maybes. I had the idea for that. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that came about?
Yeah, it was a sort of a organic process, I guess. I mean, we had the idea, we had the name for a long time, for maybe 5 years or so, that we would sort of use as a joke band name, like a band that didn't really exist. But, if we wanted to do some sort of project that wouldn't fit in with what we're doing at all, we would say, oh, we'll save that for the Resounding Maybes. But and we just had suddenly a stretch of free time, and we were quarantined together and wanted to do a project of some kind.
Patrick is in 3 bands. I'm in one of them, but we couldn't play with any of our bands. 4 bands. But live music ceased to exist there. Then when COVID hit, we had shows booked all summer and they were all canceled, every single one. And so we really even couldn't practice for a while with everybody because people just weren't getting out. We were trying to all be responsible and stay put and do our best. And we did a few little streaming things to benefit our friends with clubs who were in peril.
And we had some library shows booked that they moved to streaming, we just ended up doing it that way for them.
But mostly we just couldn't play. But as it happens, we are quarantined together because we're married.
That worked out.
We made our own band.
I was going to say, and then Ed from the Shakeups ended up joining us as well for the live shows.
Yeah, I heard that's wonderful too. And what I love is I love your debut album. The Resounding Maybes. You had some songs that came out in EP last year, but then you came out with your album. If I don't hash this, Sine Qua Non. Is that right?
Correct.
It is a dead language, so there's nobody around who speaks it. Who's going to.
Yeah, before this, I was practicing that word over and over again, or the words. I love their meaning, but for those audience members out there who don't know what it means, can you tell us how you came up with that name?
It is Latin for without which none. It is also a legal term, but the actual reason it's in there is dorkier than the academic. In Battles, can I say
there was an episode title for Battlestar Galactica.
Was it really?
Yes.
It was. And Captain, eventually Admiral Adama. Admiral Adama's father, who was a lawyer, he liked the phrase because he would say that it was the thing without which nothing else mattered. And it was sort of a loving phrase that he directs at his sort of romantic.
Right.
I tell you, I'm feeling ashamed on so many levels right now because I love Battlestar Galactica. I was literally just watching a video last week of how they made the Cylon's voice in the 70s.
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
that's so cool. And then I'm ashamed. I actually took 3 years of Latin in high school, and I still didn't know what that meant. So apparently, I should have paid more attention in
I went
class.
to Catholic school, so a nomine patris, spiritus sanctus, and all of that. So
Yeah. But I love that because it's like something you can't live without, and I kind of think that does apply to your music. Because at a time where I needed it, I started listening to your album, and I love it because for me, it's got the alternative rock with kind of a fresh feel to it, which you've described, I believe, as sort of a dream pop flavor. I love that. Just how would you describe your music of the Resounding Maybes to our audience?
Yeah, that's basically dream pop, alt rock. Lots of guitar textures, lots of reverb.
Yeah, because I'm going back to the 80s and 90s and some of the alt bands back there. I've seen The Cure. I mean, some of those. Who inspired you as you've grown up for this kind of music?
Yeah, but that's the thing. There's all these bands that I used to listen to. I mean, I still love 90s music, but there were all these bands I used to listen to that just you don't hear much of anymore. I mean, The Cure being the exception. But like the Jesus and Mary Chain's debut came out in 1985, and that was kind of the proto dream pop shoegaze sort of thing. And then in the late 80s, early 90s, you had like My Bloody Valentine and Slowdive, which is the one I really went down the rabbit hole on last year and really helped inspire the longer, kind of more melancholy songs that we did.
Yeah.
Lush, who started out as a very shoegazy band and evolved into a Britpop band later. But yeah, those Ride is another good one from their album Nowhere was a big staple of the shoegaze scene.
If anybody is into that kind of music, we do have a Facebook page where it's sort of become this place where it's a lot of people talking about a sort of a niche little pocket of music that people don't talk about that much anymore.
As I'm watching you two, and if I can just bring this up, you have this cute dog for those of you watching right now. But what brought you two together to make music in the first place? How'd that come about? Can I ask that story? Can I ask that?
Sure,
yeah.
Well, it's just I was a fan of one of Patrick's bands, and I just liked one of the bands that he was in, a 5-Year Mission, which is a Star Trek themed rock band.
Yes.
I'm a maladapted Star Trek fan, huge science fiction fan. I used to help staff and run Starbase Indy, which is our local Star Trek convention. So big into Star Trek. And
we would play that convention every year. So
yeah,
that's where I saw you play for the first time.
Talked to me a couple times and I ran away because I was awkward. Eventually.
Did he keep chasing you? You ran away, and Patrick, never give up, never surrender, right?
Right. So eventually
there's a picture. There's a picture before we really ever spoke. There's a picture of the band with Savannah at Starbase Indy, actually, and my arm is like sort of hovering over.
Like you get your picture with them, like, and then I ran away. But
we just started talking, and then we started dating, and then we started playing music together, and it just
how we started playing music together is interesting in the sense I took piano as a child, had not played in years and years and years, and in one of Patrick's bands, delightful keyboardist and vocalist named Pixies moved to Pennsylvania and shows were booked, and Patrick was all like, you should just play keys, and I'm all like, I haven't played a keyboard in a really long time, and he's all like, it'll be okay, she's not, her parts aren't that hard, you'll figure it out. And I just took lessons and figured out how to play while I was a working musician. That was fun.
Wow, well, you're both so good, and just the music you guys make is wonderful.
I'm still not very good. It probably shows.
The shakeups, had been around for quite a while, and then all of a sudden, we had a little audience locally or whatever, but we weren't like getting shows all over the country or anything like that. And then all of a sudden, there was suddenly this demand for this thing we were doing, and there was no band. Like our bass player sort of left, and Bitsy, our keyboardist, moved away, and we suddenly had all these offers to play live, and we couldn't play live.
It was just Patrick.
And so we just had to figure out something, and we figured something out really fast, and we managed to do it.
Luisana, who's our other vocalist, is one of my best friends. And so, one day I realized she could sing. We dragged her in. Ed's best friend, and person he writes comic books with was just handy, and he played the bass. And so our newer lineup of the Shake-Ups was like something that just
kind of came together. Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
And the drummer, he and I have been playing together for close to 20 years now.
No, he was consistent.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that earlier, and I kind of love how you led into it, Savannah. How you're with 5 Year Mission, Star Trek tribute band, which I was just blown away because I was reading a little bit about you guys. You've been around for a while, but I love your quest. You actually created a song for each of the original Star Trek episodes, all 79, I'm guessing.
They're not done.
We're not quite finished, but
not quite done. How far are you along? Tell us about
It's
that.
a beautiful project. I really like it.
There's the last album's worth of songs, the last 16 episodes are yet to be recorded, but all the others so far, and some multiple versions for some of them. Like we did the Trouble with Tribbles EP, where each of the 5 of us wrote a song, because we couldn't agree on who should write the song, so we just all wrote one.
I just think it's so neat. The creativity of you and Savannah and just your whole group is amazing. Do you guys, I just
keep talking.
I just want to know if you guys, how do you stay so creative? Do you ever get like writer's block or anything like that? You have so many projects going on. It's amazing.
I think, that's part of the reason is to just kind of keep it going, I think with Sine Qua Non, when we were working on that, the idea was to not get stale and keep it fresh while we were, quarantined. So, that's really the main thing is just and when I'm writing a song, I don't necessarily know where it's going to end up. You can usually get a pretty good sense of what will work the best for it, when you're writing it or after, once it's done. And so, obviously with 5 Year Mission, for instance, I will write to the episode, but, with the Resounding Maybes, I had some songs lined up that I really wanted to record, and we started with those. And the name Sine Qua Non was actually a lyric in the song and Counterpart. So that's, and the other thing I liked about using that as a title is I love the Pixies, which is one of those late 80s, early 90s bands.
Oh yeah, I like them too. Yeah.
And their last album before they originally broke up was called Trompe le Monde. And so I thought Sine Qua Non, Trompe le Monde, very similar in some ways. So.
Very nice, much better. I did want to ask you, with you said the live performances obviously last year they were canceled a lot, really hurt the music industry. How's it looking this summer for you guys? Do you have some performances coming up? How's summer looking?
Yes, we do.
Things are waking back up again.
We're going to be at the Melody Inn in Indianapolis here on Friday, May 28th.
Excellent.
We're going to be at the Flyover in Anderson June 11th, which is an all ages show.
Nice.
And then another all ages show June 12th, Saturday, is Moseyed on Main Street in Lafayette, where we're going to be playing, I think, at 7 p.m. And it's a nice big sort of festival.
Yeah,
situation.
we didn't really know if we'd just keep doing Resounding Maybes things after the quarantine. It kind of depended on, but we are.
But we really like doing
now
it.
we like it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna keep doing
Well,
it.
we love listening to it. And for what I heard through the grapevine is you actually have been working on some new material. We were just wondering, how's that coming along? When we're going to hear some more from the Resounding Maybes?
It hasn't stopped.
Well, I've got not quite another album's worth, but probably 2/3 of an album.
Savannah and Patrick, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate it. Love your music.
Oh, thank you so much for having us. We
Yes,
appreciate you. It was lovely speaking with you again. Do you need our website in case people
That would be great. Yeah. What is your website?
Yeah.
So resoundingmaybes.com. Got all the music and shows and stuff on there. And then we're also on Bandcamp, which is just resoundingmaybes.bandcamp.com. We're on YouTube. We've got some fun music videos you can check out on there. And we're on Facebook a lot and Twitter. So.
Excellent. I'll put links to those in the show notes. Thank you again, both. Really appreciate it. Great seeing you both.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Online coffee break.
Well, I really enjoyed my conversation with Savannah and Patrick today. Hope you did too. And I'm loving their music. Again, Sine Qua Non is available now at Bandcamp, or just go to their website for more information, theresoundingmaybes.com. I want to thank Patrick and Savannah for joining us today. I want to thank you for joining us as well. Again, we'd love it if you'd subscribe or smash that like button. We'd certainly appreciate it. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time. God bless.